Drive away your worries and cares at this drive-in theater, where you will see the finest motion pictures of all time, soon to be released. Drama, comedy, adventure, excitement. Something for everyone. Here's a brief glimpse of some of the truly fine pictures we've scheduled in the near future.
Hello, this is Sammy B7883, and today I thought I would just show you a quick video of my Atari 2600 games and some of the things that are associated with Atari, such as this Pac-Man mug, which I got at an antique store. It's actually really neat. It's one of those mugs where you kind of have to move it around, and you can see, the different ghosts and Pac-Man. I guess pretty much every time you take a sip, the figures will change and everything every time you move the mug. I thought it was pretty cool. I think I only got it for about $9, but they were having some sort of sale going on, so I think I ended up only paying about $5 or $6 for it. But here are a few of my games that I thought was actually really cool to own or collect. Most of these games are pretty basic. Games like Breakout here, I've actually created the label for, because on most of these games, the labels, the front label will be fine, but the end label will be torn off or scratched off. And actually, I was able to salvage one of them, which was Berserk, which is a favorite of mine. The label just was really worn, but I was able to just tape it on. Looks kind of cheap, but it is what it is. But yeah, you can buy labels and just kind of have fun with it. I did that for Breakout, Haunted House, Millipede, and I've got 2 versions of Pac-Man. It's the same game, but one of the original one that I have, the label tore off, and the cart's a little busted. But, you'd be surprised, after many years and wear and tear on these games, they actually work really, really well, which is hard to say about most systems and games today. But, anyways, some of the games that I own, like I said, are basically games that if you own an Atari 2600, they're not rare, but some of these I thought were actually really neat to find. Like, this is for the 7800 right here. It's Double Dragon. Most of these games, like I said, are pretty much common if you're a collector of Atari games. Some of these, are pretty much hard to find. This one actually in particular, Ghostbusters, was really, really, I actually just stumbled upon it when I was at a video game store, and it's actually in really great condition, and the gameplay, everything works great on it. You kind of have to manipulate the Atari. If you owned an original Atari and not the 2600, you could actually manipulate it a lot better than you would on the 2600. But I just thought, when I saw it in this tour, the only thing that's really on the cover is the Ghostbusters logo, which I thought, that alone is actually really cool. Gremlins was another hard one to find. I was actually able to find it on Amazon for fairly cheap. The label is in mint condition, and you know, it's a great little fun game to play. Pitfall 2. This is a really interesting game. You know, the label is actually still really good and intact, but doing a little research on this game before I purchased it, I found out online that this was actually the first game to actually have a soundtrack associated with it. So as you're playing the game, you know, it's a side-scroller adventure, but as you're playing the game, there's music that will continuously play throughout the whole game. And according to Wikipedia and other websites, this was the first game to actually have a soundtrack attached to it. So I thought that was really cool. I've got pole position for the 2600 and then pole position for the 7800. I actually bought these online, and it's pretty much buyer beware, because, you know, it said that it was pole position for the 2600 for both it was pole position and pole position 2 for the 2600, but when I actually got the games, you know, it's pole position 2600 and pole position for the 7800. I don't own a 7800, but some of these games are really hard to find. And, you know, eventually one day I will get a 7800. For example, you know, I've got two different versions of Popeye. Now, they both look the same, completely the same. But if you look, you know, you can actually really tell that one is for the 2600 and the other was built for the 7800. Now, there's no clear description really anywhere on this game that says that it's for the 7800 or for the 2600, because they're identical, you know, if you put them side by side. But you really have to be aware of your the circuit board at the end here, you know, the plug-in for the actual game, because for the 2600, the board here, and, you know, I'm no real computer genius or anything. I don't know the actual terminology for this stuff, but it looks like a circuit board, so we're gonna go with that. The little board here is actually smaller for the 2600 than compared to the 7800. It's, you know, that's pretty much the only way you can really tell if you have a hard time trying to figure out. Like with this situation, they're both pretty much identical, same shape almost, you know, same design, but one is for one system and one is for the other system. Here's a game that was actually made by Nintendo. It's probably really hard to read this, and, you know, I'm down in my basement pretty much, so this is where I keep all my games. But Sky Skipper was actually made by Nintendo, and it's really cool to play a game that was made by Nintendo on Atari. Here's another one I thought was... when I saw the end label, I completely freaked. Star Fox for the Atari 2600. This is actually not associated with the Nintendo version Star Fox. This game, although it does resemble Star Fox in a sense, it's nowhere related to Star Fox for Nintendo. But I thought it was pretty cool to hold on to. The game itself is really, you know, it's tongue-in-cheek, but it's, you know, it's fun to look at and just be like, oh wow, I got Star Fox for the 2600. Here's another one, which is probably the one video game I have that's in really great condition. Is Star Trek, the Strategic Operations Simulator. This game is actually pretty neat. It's just like another, you know, space flying adventure, but what I thought was really cool was it's made by Sega, and it's for the 2600. I don't know if there exists a Sega console that will play this, but it is really cool to see. Like I said, you know, Nintendo and Sega, there was a lot of game companies before they hit it big, apparently, had games for the 2600. here are a few games that I think are, really cool to hang on to. If you ever watch the AVGN, which I watch, a lot, Sword Quest for the Atari 2600, the nerd actually has a really great, it's almost like a mini documentary on this, this series of games. Unfortunately, I don't own Waterworld because apparently there was only so many made, or it never existed. But if you were to play these games now, you'd have no idea what to do. At one time, I almost bought Sword Quest. I believe it was Fireworld. It was complete in box, even came with a comic book. If you ever get a chance, check out the Angry Video Game Nerd's video on this. It is probably one of the most amazing short stories I've ever, watched. A very fun one. Of the cover, it is just so, it's like, the movie, the company that made the movie, and it's really cool. It says Games of the Century, below 20th century, and then it shows a picture of what the game will look like. And I'm not kidding you, it is like playing Pac-Man almost. Most games were like Pac-Man for some reason. It's like a cheap way to sell movie merchandise, apparently, if it was a video game. And I got this for $8. It's a really neat little game. It's like Pac-Man in a sense, but it's pretty much its own type of video game. Here's one that is actually quite infamous. I own 2 copies of this game, and the other copy I'll show to you momentarily, but if you know anything about this game, you know the reason behind why everyone hates it so much. And it's really unfortunate when you take an awesome movie like E.T. and you try to turn it into a video game and it just doesn't work. And this would be the Pac-Man board game. Now, most of the ghosts that came with the board game, they were either blue, yellow, green, or red, much like the Pac-Man here. Basically you go around the board and you eat these pellets, as you go across the board. You roll the dice to see, how many times you can, go across and collect pellets, and whoever has the most pellets wins. So it's kind of like Hungry Hungry Hippos in a sense. And here is the board game itself and what it looks like, basically the layout of it all, which is really neat, pretty cool. And all these holes, this is where you put the pellets at. The power pellets are, the red right here. Of course, the ghosts. You roll one set of dice to move your Pac-Man. The other die is for, where you want to move the ghost to. You can move it closer to the other player, and I believe that you get their pellets if they run into the ghost. But, it's a fun little board game. And here are some of the Nintendo games that I own. Some of them are pretty good, and some of them are really bad. It's actually really neat to find some games. I actually went to a flea market, and there was a guy, and Duck Hunt Mario Brothers really isn't like a rare game or anything to own, but the guy that was back there, I was asking him for a certain game, and I can't remember what game it was exactly. Might have been an NWC cart. No, I'm just kidding. But he basically told me that if I go to his video game store instead of this other video game store that I had been going to, that he would give me for free Super Mario Brothers Duck Hunt. And I was like, well, I've got like probably 50 copies of that already, but I'll go ahead and take it off your hands. And when he handed it to me in a Nintendo sleeve box. with the game that works great, by the way, and it came with the instruction manual. And in this manual, I mean, it basically tells you, you know, each character. It was just really cool to look at because I remember this from my childhood, and getting to see these pictures for the first time, I mean, it's really, really cool to own. And so, I mean, something that, you know, a guy on eBay could sell for $10, I got for free, which was really nice of the guy. My wife actually bought me this when I came out to... This is before we were married, and I was living out in Indianapolis, and actually where we live now in PA, and she bought me this. Now, it's not the original Zelda. I mean, the cart inside is gray, but the original game that I own is the gold cart. But it's just cool to actually own a box, and it comes with the instruction manual. And I guess apparently at one point they were selling it for $50, and you know, we got it for like 30. So it's not bad, but I still think she overpaid for this. You know, and that's the great thing about going to like flea markets and stuff, because some people sell things and they have no idea what they have. Like here, complete in box. I mean, I'm sure this is worth probably like $2 really, but I mean, I got it for like $1 at a flea market. It's complete in box with an instruction manual. I mean, this box is in great shape. And I, being such a Pac-Man fan, actually own Pac-Man and Donkey Kong, for that matter, for Nintendo. So here's some more other Nintendo games that I own. I don't know what the Game Genie for the Sega is doing in there, but okay. Like, you know, I don't own any rare Nintendo games or anything. Like, you know, I own pretty much the basic. Got Tecmo Bowl, Clue Clue Land, Nightmare on Elm Street, RBI Baseball, Krusty's Funhouse, Alpha Mission. There's Donkey Kong, like I was talking about. Batman, you know, that was actually a really cool game. Sunsoft really made some really neat games. Got Metroid. Friday the 13th. Apparently I have Ghostbusters for on DVD. So, oh, that was a Christmas present. This actually is a really neat Nintendo little case that I got from a friend. He's not into Nintendo, but he likes to collect old things. This is pretty much the box where I keep all my favorite games in. I got Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, Double Dragon, Turtles, the arcade game, which is actually like Turtles 2, Castlevania, Contra, RC Pro-Am, Ninja Gaiden 2, Ice Hockey, G.I. Joe, which was actually really hard to find. I can't remember how much I got for this game, but it was such a great deal and such a great game. Taxon made the game, and they just, you know, most of their games were really, really good. That is just a cluster mess of Nintendo controllers. I'm not sure what controller that is. I think it was for my Tiger. It was like a virtual reality. Yeah, this was the headset right here that's kind of hanging there. Played some like little tiny cheap Tiger games. Atari controllers, Nintendo controllers. You got the you know, NES Max controller there. But I need to sit down at some point and unravel this great mystery. Some off-brand Nintendo controllers right there. That should be fun. I know this has nothing to do with my video games, so I'm kind of proud of this collection. It's basically my Star Wars Happy Meal toy collection, which these came out right when Episode 3 came out. So, you know, they were pretty hard to get them all. I can't find C-3PO for some reason, and I don't know what that is doing there. I need to find a place for that. And I separate Jar Jar from all these other characters. I think that's why that's there. Because I you know, he's part of the collection, but I'd rather have C-3PO back than to have Jar Jar up there. You know, some fighter jets, stuff like that. Millennium Falcon, Gizmo. Not too for certain why Gizmo's right there. I actually hand painted that Gizmo. I'm quite a collector of Gremlins stuff. This was actually one of the original dolls, I guess, that came out. It was so dingy and dirty looking that I had to clean it up and repaint it, and you know, everything on it is repainted. I thought it looked pretty good. And there's a few turtle toys right there.